Hello everybody, how's it doing? How's it going? Welcome back to another fan reading on Tales of the Creeps. Today we are looking at a story by Canary Canvas, and the story is called Me and My Friends Went to an Abandoned Mineshaft and They Never Came Back. Is that the right? Hold on, is it? Me and my friends got lost in an abandoned mineshaft and they never left. Okay, that's the title. I haven't looked into the story, I haven't read it. Like I said, I like to do blind read-throughs so I can get as much as a reaction as you all can. So, like I said, all the links will be in the description below, so you can check out the author and go to the Discord and just chat, hang out, just do whatever. So anyway, without further ado, me and my friends got lost in an abandoned. Those two had left me waiting once again. Schooled in an urban explorer forum I frequented and found nothing I hadn't seen before. One post did catch my eye, though. It was a post about Wiseman Mine, a haunted gold mine said to be located somewhere on the edge of town. George Wiseman had died a rich man of some time in the 1800s. On his deathbed, he said he had sworn to return to collect the rest of his gold from the earth. If anyone was to try and steal it from him, he further swore to strike them down, and they would serve him the mine in their death. It said that if you're lost in the forest around Westbrook, you might hear him still digging beneath your feet. Finally, I saw headlights approaching through the trees and put my phone down. A red SUV pulled up beside me and a bearded man called out from the passenger seat. "Hey, Skinny, we had to stop for gas." I'd given up trying to make them stick to a schedule years ago. I got out of the car and grabbed my bag. The other two did the same. We walked towards a gated fence surrounding an abandoned automotive factory. The bearded man, Hunter, bent down as we approached the fence with wire cutters in hand. Power was already off. Dave Hardwell died of a heart attack 30 years or so ago. No family came forward to claim his assets or his business. People stopped showing up for work, nobody paid the bills, and Dave's auto shop was left to be reclaimed by the forest. It only took a few minutes and we were soon walking through a courtyard overgrown with weeds and moss. The door to the factory itself was unlocked. Disassembled remains and skeletal frames of cars littered the factory floor. There was a hole in the ceiling. We slowly made our way through the room and onwards, up a set of stairs that were once an emergency exit. We climbed them upwards and found the door to the roof locked. Thea held up her torch as Toolbox began unbolting the door. As Toolbox? That's an awesome name for a character, Toolbox. It didn't take long to get the door open. We stepped out onto the roof and behold our prize. A beautiful view overlooking the whole town of Westbrook. We went back and forth, pointing out sights we recognized in the light of the street lamps below. We had planned this trip for a night without clouds. Stars lit up the night sky above us. We could see them better on the far side of the roof, facing away from town. Pulled a few beers out and some snacks from my bag. We all sat there looking up at the stars. We talked for hours. During a lull in conversation, I asked if either of them had heard of Wiseman Mine. Hunter told me he had no idea, but then gave me a knowing nod. She asked if I meant the haunted gold mine, and Hunter had a concerned look on his face at the word haunted. Naturally, I asked if he was scared of ghosts, and he said yes. Then I asked if he wanted to hear the story of Wiseman Mine. He hesitated, but nodded. After the story, he had forgotten about the ghost and asked instead how much I thought the gold would be worth. He went back and forth for a while, arguing over how much it would be, or how would you sell it in the first place. He had been quiet until now, but spoke up now. She said she wanted to look for the mine. Conversation came to a halt, and I looked at her, and I laughed. Wiseman Mine was just a scary story. Told her this much after I finished, and she told me I was wrong. She said a trusted source mentioned rumors it was a few miles west of Barber's Avenue. I didn't believe her. Hunter said he was in. I expected her to laugh at him for falling for the joke. She just kept looking at me. When I didn't say anything, she said that she wasn't interested in the gold or the ghost story. She told me she just wanted to find out if it was real. I realized so did I. I told her I was in. Planned to meet up 3 days from then and make our way out to look up for the mine. The next day, a storm blew in and didn't give up for the better part of the week. I used the time to research what I could find out about Wiseman Mine. The supposedly real Wiseman Mine, not the ghost story people told. Found nothing helpful except for one article in a newspaper from 1902. A local man, Joshua Higgs, had died from falling into a collapsed mine shaft. The odd thing was, in the fall, he had impaled something sharp straight through his skull. Said he was unrecognizable. Only ID in his wallet identified him. It was ruled as an accidental death, and the mineshaft tunnel was filled over. At the end of the week, the rain had passed. We started our search early at 6 a.m. The night before, I had a strange dream. I woke up in my bedroom. There was no furniture inside except for my bed. I could hear something faintly, a repetitive banging. It was coming from downstairs. I woke up next morning and shrugged it off as a strange dream. I got ready for the search and drove out. Whoops, sorry. Oh my gosh. I'm trying to get stuff off my desk. I'm throwing things and making noise. I'm sorry. I woke up the next morning and shrugged it off as a strange dream. Got ready for the search and drove out to the start of Barber's Ave. The other two were early. We drove for an hour. About halfway through the paved road, gave way to packed dirt. Barber's Avenue led north in opposite directions of the automotive factory, and then an interstate highway headed toward the coast. It was mostly woods and hills between us and there. Pulled out a map with a few locations circled that I thought looked good to search. They added a few more, and we set off searching for George Wiseman Gold Mine. Later that day, we left the woods tired and bruised. We got bit by ants. Hunter got stung by a bee. We had covered half the ground we expected to and found nothing. I am so sorry if that deafened you. There is an ant running across my screen. That's disgusting. Get out of here. Let me silence my phone because I'm reading this from my phone. I am so sorry about all the interruptions. Alright, yeah. Later that day we left the woods and... Okay, I read that. 3 days of searching later, we found it. It was late afternoon on the fourth day. We were heading back and a fallen tree trunk blocked our path. The dirt around its roots were sunken several feet into the ground in an odd pattern. Remember the article I read a few days prior and pointed out the small sinkhole to the others? We all started to dig. The soil was damp from the rain and it made the digging easier. 20 minutes later, our shovels bursted through into an open space. Dirt piled into a mineshaft tunnel about 4 feet below us. The gap we could see through was small. The sun was starting to set, and so we all prepared to return the following morning. That night, I had the same strange dream. Bedroom empty, faint banging noise from below. I went to go downstairs and investigate, only to find the door to my room was locked. Put my ear to the floor, listened to the noise. It sounded like metal being struck several stories beneath me. I could hear something crack under the weight of each blow. I woke up the next morning unnerved, but soon forgot my strange dream as I prepared to explore Wiseman Mine. Is there something digging up to him? Because from what I'm guessing, the ghost of Wiseman is like pickaxing its way up towards the surface to get him or something. That's my guess. We never planned to go far. We just wanted a souvenir, a rusty pickaxe, a miner's helmet, something like that. We got to the mine in the morning and began to dig a large enough gap for us to get in and out. The deeper we dug, the more stones we have to dig around and carry out ourselves. By afternoon, we had cleared a space slanting downward into the mine shaft. We made it inside. The walls were jagged stones, carved at odd angles, often slanted towards the ceiling. It was wide enough for the 3 of us to walk side by side. We only had one way to go and so followed into the tunnel further down carefully. As we walked there, were often side passages that bent and twisted in odd angles. We came to a dead end. We made our way back towards the exit, taking our time to inspect the side passages more thoroughly. There must be space left behind once there was mined. There must be the space left behind once the ore was mined. Good lord. Can't freaking read tonight. A few rocks sparkled in the torchlight. We could see markings of where a tool scratched the rock. Hunter found a nugget of gold ore. It was still embedded inside one of these side passage walls. It was the size of an apple. He began to chip away at the rock. Small chips of stone fell to the ground around him. Some larger chunks snapped off. If only pulled it free, and a section of large stone underneath the ore cracked, and each one hit the floor with a heavy thud. The ground shook. There was a rumbling and great cracks of stone snapping beneath our feet. We fell 10 feet into another tunnel below. We survived without any major injury or However, our flashlights did break in the fall. We landed in the dark. Thankfully, Hunter had a spare flashlight, and a few minutes of scrambling around in the dark, we found it. Stones were cold and sharp, the air was damp and moisture clung to the walls. We were in a deeper part of the mineshaft now. We tried to climb out, but our hands and feet found no purchase on the wet stones. The tunnel wall was more narrow where we had fallen. We walked single file towards a section of tunnel that opened up to our left. Hunter held the flashlight now and led the way. We came across a sudden steep drop. A deep cavern had been mined into the earth itself with wooden supports and ladders crossing the gap in several places. Even with our torchlight, we couldn't see the bottom. Wooden supports and ladders could be seen crossing the empty pit below. Hunter threw a stone and we leaned in to listen. We never heard it hit the ground. I did keep listening and I thought I heard a familiar sound, a repetitive striking of metal on stone. Is that a bear trap? Oh my gosh. I think I called a bear trap. Hunter must have noticed it too, for he called out into a shaky voice, echoing off into the walls of the pit. Hello? 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 No reply ever came. We didn't hear the noise anymore either. We soon decided to explore the tunnel the opposite direction. As we walked, Thea asked a question. She asked if either of us had any strange dreams recently. She described having a dream similar to my own last few nights. She recognized the sound from the cavern as the same as she could hear from her under the bedroom floor. Hunter said he had a strange dream too, however, it was different from ours. He told us he would find himself very tired. His arms and legs were moving without his control. He was holding something heavy. He couldn't see in his dreams. He was exhausted. He wanted to rest. His muscles burned with exertion, and his throat was so dry it felt like sandpaper. Ooh, Hunter might be possessed by this guy. Ooh, that's sick. He told us he woke up crying each night. Conversation faded. We listened to the echo of footsteps and the sound of our own breathing. Came to an intersection of our tunnel and another. One section had caved in, leaving only one direction for us to go. We went left. The tunnel twisted and turned in winding paths so we could never see the path very far ahead of us. Hunter turned the corner ahead of us and froze. I almost walked into him and staggered backwards. Shaking torchlight revealed a tall figure standing just beyond the bend of the tunnel. He was pale. Long black hair covered his face. Shoulders were broad and his hands held an old pickaxe. He took one step forward and raised it above his head. Hunter didn't move. I could still hear the disgusting crunch of his skull. Oh, gosh. Got him. Heard the disgusting crunch as his skull gave way under the blow. Saw the tip of the picks protruding from the back of his skull. He began to scream. Maybe I was the one screaming. I don't remember. The flashlight fell to the floor and turned off. Darkness consumed the tunnel and wet thud followed as Hunter's body landed beside it. I didn't move. It had all been over in a span of 10 seconds. I must have stood there for hours before this single word was uttered from the dark in front of me. The voice was low and guttural. The tunnel around us trembled as the commanding hung in the air. Leave. I ran. I couldn't see. My friend was dead and I ran. I crashed against the sharp stone in the wall and felt them cut into me. I didn't care. I had to get away. I reached the intersection, began clawing at the dirt blocking the other path. It was only then I noticed Thea had followed and was digging next to me. After a few minutes, maybe an hour of digging, I broke through and felt a breeze, widening the gap slightly. The air whistled through the tunnel. There was an exit through there. My arms ached. Each breath hurt my chest. I could feel the cuts on my arms and legs. I didn't dare stop. We broke through the other side. I got through it first and didn't wait for Thea. I felt my way along the walls, trying to find the exit. After what felt like hours of searching, I heard Thea's voice call out from somewhere in the dark, "I can see a light over there!" I followed the sound of her voice and soon saw it. We escaped Wiseman Mine, me and Thea. That was 2 months ago. Me and Thea didn't leave one another's side for the first week. We sat in silence often, liked having the company. Eventually, life went on. Field told me she was going to stay with family. She asked what I was going to do. I told her I was doing the same thing to make her feel better. She didn't smile, but looked less worried when I said this. I haven't heard from her in weeks. Found her mom's phone number online and after passing her interrogation to prove I knew her daughter, she told me Thea left a few days ago. She asked me if Thea was okay. Told her she was, but I don't think she believed me. At night, I have the same dream. I wake up in an empty bedroom, but now I hear a second person digging far below. Some nights I can hear a distant sobbing. Last night I heard a third. I have to go look for my friends. Fun story. I like the simple, like, haunted ghost premise. That's also one of my favorite stories. I like the premise of, like, supernatural and creature features. I'm that type of guy that watches all those, like, cryptid documentaries and ghost stories. So that was right up my alley. That was a very fun read and kind of, like, short to the point, like, really, like, quick gut punches. I loved it a lot. Like the pickaxe going into the dude's head. Poor Hunter. Is that based off like Creepcast Hunter, or they just like seem to be like conventionally similar? I don't know, but that's fun. I liked it a lot. I really did. I gotta say more than that. There was a few grammar errors, and I was like a little confused at what was going on with Thea at the end. But other than that, great story. Thank you, Canary Canvas, for letting me read it. I hope you keep writing. Please keep writing. You will only get better. And I mean that in a very positive way. Again, all the links in the description will be below. And you all have a nice night. All right? Later.